Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers want another trial because one of the jurors violated her rights. And he's named. The article we're going to read about from with this. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on and what that means. And hey, what actually might wind up in his door coming up in the near future. In other news, Reuters wants, a reporter wants to know if the Biden admin will investigate right-wing protesters from the U.S. going into Canada. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. The author that's leading the mob against Rogan is revealed to have used the N-word many times in his books. So we'll talk about some of what's going on with that. And the Georgia House has passed a proposal to place a statue of Justice Thomas at the Capitol. It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got a bunch of stuff to get to today. I mean, when we look at some of the things that are tried to be in the news, KTZed and I talked about this last night when we talked about what was going on with Syria and how quickly that came out of the news, and with the Ukraine stuff, which it does seem like they're trying to shuffle that shit out of the news too here. They're trying to cram. We saw a lot of this back when there were things that were not exactly, happy for the Biden admin, like the jobs report, like the Ukraine not really falling onto the warmongers' ears over here. Now they try to cram a bunch of shit in for stuff that they think that we're going to care about, and then scattershot it. So we, throw spaghetti at the wall, see if something sticks. That's probably the best analogy for it. But we're going to get through all of it, or most of it here, at least probably today, over on Contemporary. Let's get started. But before we do, go check out the start page for turnsofpagesproductions.com. Turns of Pages Productions will be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs, where we will carry, once we are up and live, great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Freckles and Brit Show, which is going to be a new project with Britt and Sean Hickman, and The Porch Boys. So go check out all of those shows. Steven should be back today. It does look like he did Green Pastures last night, so he will most likely be back today. So we'll see him shortly after the show here. We're not going to rate him because he's not going on until after I get off the air, but we will go and check that out, and we'll go see what he's up to today. And check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. All right, let's look in at the Dow. The Dow was up 1.39 points yesterday, or 0.0040%. After a whipsaw day coming up as far as 35,300 just about, and dropping on the line of dropping below 35,000, we ended at 35,091.31, and that's where it sits. I mean, we've seen a couple days right in a row where it just whipsaws back around and then lands pretty well exactly where it was. I think it was like that on Friday. It was like that yesterday as well. But with that, we will see what happens and where the markets go. Let's grab one from Bitcoin. Bitcoin is at 43,404 US dollars and 80 US cents. That is a modest drop off of yesterday, a 1% drop off of yesterday's total. So that's where that's going. And I mean, we're still back above the 40,000 mark again. So those of you who bought the dip at the 35,000 mark are probably looking at this a little bit happily right now, but we will continue to see where that goes, and we'll continue to watch that, A, because Spartan likes it, and B, because Joe Jorgensen told us that's the only way to live in a truly libertarian society is to use Bitcoin. She's not a Fed op or anything else like that. So we'll see what happens. We'll see where that goes and what happens with that. Let's look in at the scrap metal prices for the day, your tangible assets. Copper has turned down, steel has turned up, and aluminum continues on the down. Looking at your individual plays, brass shells, so if you're going to the range, have gone up, but all of your other scrap metal prices for brass have gone down. Looking at steel, steel is having a banner day today. Everything on steel is in the green. Aluminum is mixed, with aluminum siding is up. Aluminum copper fin radiators are down. Regular aluminum radiators are down. Cans are up. Sheet aluminum is up. Rims are down. Also looking in, motors are down. Ballasts are up. Lead is up. Car and truck batteries are down. All catalytic converters turned on the down swing over the last 24 hours. Compressors are up. Alternators are down. Carbide is up. And all of your computer plays are also down right now. So that's what we see coming off of that, and that's where they go. We'll see what happens with that. Let's see what IBD has to say. Scott Latonin brings us today's article. Dow Jones futures fall, 4 top stocks to buy and watch in volatile stock market rally. Dow Jones futures turned lower Tuesday following Monday's volatile stock market action. Dow Jones Biotech, Amgen, along with Alpha and Omega Semiconductor and Take-Two Interactive Software are key earnings movers late, and drug giant Pfizer will report ahead of Tuesday's open. Amid a volatile stock market rally, Alphabet, Blackstone, CF Industries, and Cheniere Energy are among Monday's top stocks to buy and watch. All 4 are in or near buy zones. On Monday, the Dow Industrial Average ended unchanged, while the S&P 500 lost 0.4%. The tech-heavy NASDAQ composite slid 0.6% after reversing from solid gains. Among the leaders, Apple dropped 0.4% on Monday, while Microsoft was down 1.6%. In today's stock market, American Express, a Dow Jones stock to watch, rallied 1.1% as it heads toward a new buy point. Are people just suddenly getting American Express cards? Am I missing something here? Electric vehicle leader Tesla skidded nearly 2% on Monday, giving up a part of Friday's gains. Cheniere, Microsoft, and Tesla are IBD leaderboard stocks. American Express and Blackstone were featured in this week's Stock Near Buy Zone column. Alright, let's see where your futures are at. Ahead of the stock market open Tuesday, Dow Jones futures edged lower versus fair value, while S&P 500 futures fell 0.2%. NASDAQ futures were down 0.25% versus fair value. Among ETFs, the NASDAQ 100 tracker Invesco QQQ Trust dropped 0.8% on Monday, and the SPDR S&P 500 ETF moved down 0.3%. The 10-year Treasury yield paired losses Monday, but still ticked down below 1.92%. On Friday, the 10-year Treasury yield closed at 1.93%, the highest level since 2019. Meanwhile, U.S. oil prices declined around 1% as West Texas Intermediate crude traded below $92 a barrel. Maybe the gas prices will break. I doubt it, but maybe. A guy can have hope, right? West Texas Intermediate briefly topped $93 a barrel last week. So that's what we see coming up out of the markets here, according to Scott Latonin, including looking at our ETFs off of this. But it's looking like today is probably going to be a wild whipsaw too. So we will continue to watch. We'll see where it goes, and we will see what rises and falls over the next 24 hours. Looking in at Barron's. Dow wobbles as bond yield hits 2022 high, Peloton drops, Bitcoin surges, and what else is happening in the market today? From Jack Denton. Stocks were mixed Tuesday while the bond yields lifted to their highest levels this year as investors anticipate tighter monetary policy from the Federal Reserve. Futures for the Dow Jones Industrial Average indicated an open less than 10 points or 0.1% higher after the index rose just 1 point on Monday to close at 35,091. S&P 500 futures signaled a start 0.2% into the red, while NASDAQ was on track to open 0.4% lower, and some of that has leveled itself out. Overseas, London's FTSE 100 rose 0.1%, touching its highest level since January 2020. The Shanghai Composite closed 0.7% higher after dropping as much as 1.1% on Tuesday. Trading buoyed amid reports that Chinese state-linked funds bought local stocks. The market was heading higher, increasingly looking to leave a volatile and ugly January behind, though the Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ remained 4%, 6.5%, and 11.5% down so far this year, respectively. Oof. Well, we'll see what happens. The NASDAQ continues to be the main driver for U.S. markets and continues to look vulnerable to a return to its January lows, while below the 200-day moving average, said Michael Hewson, an analyst broker at CMC Markets, all while the S&P 500 is holding above its 200-day moving average as the tug-of-war continues between the bulls and bears as sentiment ebbs and flows. And again, do keep in mind that those in the mainstream media are going to be affecting this at some point with this, because, and as we know with the mainstream media, given the situation that we're going to be in and who's in the White House, when the stocks get too low, they're going to come out and say, come on, kids, oh, they're on sale. You know you want to buy some more stocks right now. They're on sale. Just buy. Don't even worry about it. Don't worry about anything. Just buy. The bulk of earnings season is done, though Tuesday sees reports from BP, DuPont, Pfizer, Harley, Peloton, and Lyft, and others. Investor attention will remain squarely focused on monetary policy, like how much will the Fed raise interest rates this year, and what will tighter policy look like. That's going to be the fun one to watch. Once the policy meeting is done, once we're out of earnings season and the policy meeting is done. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's get into the main news of the day. Starting with New York Post today. Maxwell lawyers say juror violated her rights to a fair trial. This is from Ben Purehurd and Kenneth Garger. Holy shit. Yeah, we're not scrolling back up after that. Not only are they giving his name, they're showing his face. As he voted to convict somebody who is sitting in who has very powerful friends. Rest in peace, and may nothing bad happen to you. Person who is not going to be named on this channel. Alright, Maxwell's legal team claimed Tuesday that the juror at the center of the retrial request violated the convicted madam's right to a fair trial with his jury questionnaire responses. Maxwell's lawyers also said the juror corrupted the voir dire, the process during jury selection, when the judge and attorneys questioned potential jurors to determine they can be impartial in the case. The problem is it's going to be really hard for anybody to be impartial in this case because they dragged it out for so long and they reported so much about the other guy on the news. I mean, you can't go 10 feet still to this day without finding some reference to Epstein didn't kill himself. Let's see. The claims were indicated Tuesday in a letter from Maxwell's attorneys to Judge Allison Nathan, arguing why their motion for a new trial should remain sealed. Maxwell's attorneys called for a new trial last month after the juror revealed that he'd been sexually abused as a child in a number of press interviews after the trial. The juror, identified by his first and middle names, yeah, we're going to redact that. I'm not going to say that out loud. New York Post, you can post whatever the fuck you want. I'm not going to say that out loud. Said he couldn't recall how he answered the questions about past sex abuse that were posed to potential panelists in a questionnaire before the trial. Told Reuters that he flew through the questionnaire, but was sure that he answered the question truthfully. In Tuesday's letter, Maxwell's attorney said the retrial motion should remain under wraps until the court makes a ruling or after a potential hearing on the request. The defense team argued that unsealing the motion would give the juror an improper preview of the information he does not have and should never have, or at least, at the very least, should not have at this point in the process. Among the information, the lawyers are trying to keep the juror from the juror's exact questionnaire responses that have not been made public. Well, yeah, they're going to try to push him out for perjury too, but I mean, as we look at this and as we see what goes on with this here, first off, and like I said, to the chat over there, Helton says, it comes as a great shock that this juror was suicidal. Yes. Yes, I do hope that he finds the help that he needs and that he can come to peace with himself. But it does appear that he is probably very suicidal right now. So suicidal that he could blow his own brains out from the back of the head with 2 shots. But I guess we'll see what happens with that. And I don't know, dude. I really don't. I didn't get to see or hear, because you can't really see it, as much of this trial as I would have liked to. Because it was a very important one, but it's federal court. So, of course, you can't watch in from the outside. No cameras in a federal court. Audio recording, but no video recording or no still pictures in a federal court. Will the retrial do anything other than give the lawyers and the powerful people the chance to intimidate other people who might be on the jury? I don't know, maybe. The big question for me is, will there be another instance? Will they be able to get all the people back in to come back out and testify again? Will they be able to get the witnesses again? Because, I mean, from what I understand off of this was a fairly traumatic event for all the witnesses. And they've already had to live through it once, or relive it once. They've had to live through it once and then relive it a second time. And now they're being asked to go back and relive it a third time on nationally available recorded audio. I don't know. But we'll see what happens with that. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire on the same topic. Maxwell prosecutors demand her retrial request be public. I'm not sure what this means, but we're going to find that out together. From Mayreed Elordi. Prosecutors in the sex trafficking trial of Ghislaine Maxwell told the judge on Friday that her request for a retrial must be made public. The government respectfully submits that the defendant has not justified her sealing request, and accordingly, the defense motion and its exhibit should be publicly docketed, prosecutors told Manhattan Federal Court Judge Ellison Nathan. Maxwell filed the request for a new trial under seal last month. The former girlfriend of the late billionaire Jeffrey Epstein was convicted in December on 5 of 6 counts, including transportation of a minor with intent to engage in illegal sexual activity, the most serious charge against her, sex trafficking of a minor. Now, however, Maxwell's defense team is requesting a new trial after a juror said in a media interview that he was personally a victim of child sexual abuse, a fact that he may not have disclosed during jury selection. Juror 50, identified after the trial as gave interviews to news outlets in which he claimed to be a victim of child sex abuse and said that he shared his own experience with the other jurors in Maxwell's trial in order to help them understand the situation from the victim's perspective. His remarks, raised eyebrows, as one of the questions on the jury selection questionnaire was, have you or a friend or family member ever been victim of sexual harassment, sexual abuse, or sexual assault? Scotty claimed that he did not remember the question, but he assured he had answered all the questions truthfully. Yeah, I have got a real feeling that this is going to turn into a major mess. Maxwell's defense argued on Tuesday that unsealing the retrial request, making it public, will provide a roadmap for the defense's examination of a juror 50 and allow him to plan out and tailor his responses or even potentially spoliate evidence. The defense also said Maxwell is not asking for the retrial request to be sealed permanently. The former British socialite seeks only a temporary sealing to protect the integrity of any fact-finding process ordered by the court, her attorney said. Prosecutor Maureen Comey challenged that argument, calling Maxwell's defense team's claims unfounded. There can be no need to hide from the public view a discussion of public materials, Comey said. The defense's suggestion that her defense briefing contains information from some significant investigation in Juror 50 is not accurate. The motion does not contain any significant material that is not otherwise public. So, we will see what... I know that this guy's going to get investigated very, very firmly. They know who he is. He's going to get fully investigated. The moron should not have gone out for an interview, but, you know, everybody needs their 15 minutes of fame. I criticize people for seeking their 15 minutes of fame, and then I sit in front of a microphone and tell you all what I think about the news. So I'm not exactly the most objective person. Hey, maybe I answered the questionnaire wrong. Maybe that's why you're here. But I do regret to find out that Scotty David hated himself and hated his own life so much that he had to take that extra step. To the back of the head twice. We will see what happens with that and where that goes. Let's keep going here. Let's talk Trudeau, shall we? From Disclosed TV, now Canada's Prime Minister Trudeau. Individuals are trying to blockade our economy, our democracy, and our fellow citizens' daily lives. It has to stop. Let's listen.
Individuals are trying to blockade our economy, our democracy, and our fellow citizens' daily lives. It has to stop.
It has to stop. And that's, I mean, it's interesting coming from any of these lockdowner politicians as well. That's one thing you have to keep in mind, because what did we do for 2 years? Or at least a year for sure. I mean, a lot of it's opening up back now, but what did we do for a year? We locked down our economy, we blockaded our economy, our democracy, and our fellow citizens' daily lives. But he doesn't like it when the little people do it. To remind him that the little people have more power and more numbers than he does. Let's listen to CNN. Crowds of demonstrators join rallies across Canada as Pinko Pox trucker protests spread, from Paula Newton. Look at all those people. Let's see if they've got any clips off of this here. I know we don't really want to do a lot of CNN, but let's see.
The sound is deafening, and yet protesters are demanding to be heard. All day long, and at all hours of the night, those with the so-called Freedom Convoy say they're staying put until vaccine mandates are dropped, the masks come off, and life returns to the way it was.
This whole event has gone beyond just vaccines, and it is now about the entire ordeal.
We're asking for our freedom. That's all we want.
So they've been free to park big rigs right next to the Prime Minister's office, free to set up camp in front of the country's national parliament.
As angry and frustrated as these protesters are, residents say they feel like hostages and they want police to do more.
I understand the police force does not want to directly intervene for fear of violence, but it feels like we've been left alone a little bit.
So desperate was this woman, she appealed directly to the protesters.
Downtown residents, children, elderly are suffering.
They heard her, but they're not listening. It seems to anyone.
This has been nothing but like disruptive. Like they're claiming their freedom while I can't even like hear anything, like can't even hear myself.
Ottawa police say.
So there's a level to this where I don't have any sympathy for these people, but I do have some sympathy for especially the ones that aren't actually like the anti-mask protesters themselves, the people who don't want to see the vaccine mandate, the people who live in Ottawa that just want to get up and go to work every day. But I look back at this and, you know, I look at the woman that's standing up on the soapbox and begging and pleading. Our children can't sleep. Our children have to go to school. They have to do this and they have to do that. And I look back and I think to that and I say, where were you in the summer of 2020? Where were you when we all had to look back And some of us, like I say, had to watch our own hometown lose many of its historic buildings, and a lot of people lose their livelihoods over something that wound up being totally justified by the same prosecution's office that you were all cheering when it came down to a kid who defended himself. Where were you for that? Because I'm guessing you were probably standing up at that same soapbox telling us, and again, I can't speak directly for this woman, but I can speak for people like her, and of course the Honorable and Venerable Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez D-Twitch, when I say I know where you were at the time. You were standing there saying protests shouldn't be comfortable. Black Lives Matter. Let them march through the streets and do whatever they want. It's only property, after all. Let's have a look here from the western province of Alberta. Moving east to Quebec City, and its cities and towns in between, thousands of Canadians have hit the streets in trucks, tractors, cars, and on foot to protest the nation's Pinko Pox restrictions. With persistent and noisy horn honking, protesters are demanding the governments at all levels lift their health restrictions, including vaccine and mask mandates, lockdowns and restrictions on businesses and gatherings. The whole event has gone beyond just vaccines and is now about the entire ordeal, protester Jim McDonald told CNN, adding he's been in Ottawa since last weekend and has no intention of leaving until health measures are dropped. The Freedom Convoy was initially started by truckers protesting a recent mandate requiring drivers entering Canada to be fully vaccinated or face testing and quarantine requirements, but others have joined the cause. Demonstrators reached Ottawa, Canada's capital city, last weekend, and its organizers said the protests will linger and elsewhere if necessary. During an Ottawa Police Services Board meeting on Saturday, City Council members and officials discussed the disruption to the lives of local residents and reports of harassment and intimidation, which is not happening. No, they're not going to stop the trucks, dude. What are they going to do? Hey, you better stop there, or we'll throw some maple syrup down in front of you to get you sticky up there, and then we'll go and do the pit maneuver. Police Chief Peter Slowly said he agreed with Dean's words, saying they summarized what he and his force have been trying to deal with for more than a week. He emphasized that he didn't have the resources or mandate to deal with the situation. The oath of office that I and my officers swore was never intended to deal with a city under siege. Fuck you! Every time I see that thing with under siege, it's under siege. No. It's not under siege. Unless, of course, I will be fair to the leftoids. I will be 100% fair to the leftoids, which they will not offer back to us. But I will be fair with the leftoids in this conversation. If you come down, all of you collectively, and admit that what happened in Minneapolis, in Portland, in Kenosha, in Atlanta, less so in Kansas City, or I'm sorry, not Kansas City, Louisville, Kentucky, not Kansas. Where the fuck did I get Kansas City from? In Louisville, and in New York, and in DC on top of that. If you are ready to come down and say that all of those events were sieges, then I will let you call this a siege and an occupation. But until you're ready to come back and do that, fuck yourself. A threat to our democracy, a nationwide... They said the word, insurrection driven by madness, Slowly warned during the meeting, adding that we do not have sufficient resources to adequately and effectively address the situation while adequately, effectively providing policing in this city. While mostly nonviolent, the protests have been noisy and chaotic, and some residents, especially in Ottawa, said they feel like they're being held hostage by demonstrators. I understand the police force does not want to directly intervene for fear of violence, Ottawa resident Jack Krentz told CNN this week, but it feels like we've been left alone a little bit. Yeah, Go talk to the people in downtown Kenosha. And sit back and wonder, you Canadians, why people like Kyle Rittenhouse picked up a rifle before he went down there to go provide medical aid. Numerous businesses in Ottawa have complained to city officials they're losing money and customers, and the majority of businesses in Ottawa's downtown core have been closed for more than a week or have been operating with reduced hours. And I'm willing to bet, by the way, that these businesses, like if they were smart, they would say, oh yes, come on in, truckers. Hey, we support your cause. And the truckers will go in and sit down and spend exorbitant amounts of money in these businesses. But they're being reduced to making their own soup kitchens because I'm willing to bet that a lot of you guys won't serve them because they don't fit your political needs. But yes, we're seeing the protests go from Vancouver to Toronto to Quebec. They're going all across the country. Trudeau, you have lost. And either you're going to find a way to turn the guns on your own people by the might of your military, or it might be time to go back and step down off of this one. You have lost. From the Daily Wire, Reuters reporter wants to know if Biden admin will investigate right-wing forces behind Canadian trucker convoy. Why? From Virginia Kruta. Reuters reporter Andrea Shalala asked the White House press secretary, red-haired bobblehead, whether or not Joe Biden's administration planned to investigate the right-wing forces responsible for supporting Canada's Freedom Convoy. Shalala asked the question during Monday's White House press briefing, following weekend reports that crowdsourcing platform GoFundMe has confiscating donations that were intended for the convoy of truckers protesting vaccine mandates and quarantine requirements in Canada. Let's listen. And I promise I'll turn the background music off for this one.
This situation in the Canadian, or in Ottawa, the truckers' protests, there does seem to be evidence that these truckers are getting support from conservative forces or right-wing forces in the U.S. Are you investigating that at all? Is there any kind of involvement of U.S. authorities in looking at those money flows going to these truckers, and are you concerned about it?
Well, I would say a couple of things. This doesn't answer your question, but I just want to get this out there, too, on this particular topic, and then I'll come around, I promise. We have been engaged since the outset. Well, some of it hopefully answers your question, I should say, of the protests. There have been zero impacts.
How many words do you have to say, red-haired bobblehead, to tell us, I got nothing? I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't want to be here anymore. This isn't as fun as you guys promised me this was going to be.
To CBP operations, which is a question people have understandably been asking us. Some shipments were rerouted by our law enforcement partners to other points of entry due to road closures. Some shippers have had to reroute, but CBP has been in communication throughout to ensure shipments can be cleared and onto the normal routes. In terms of an assessment of any other engagement from here, we don't really have any update on that or any investigation to read out at this point in time.
Which, I mean, to me, first off, I hate to give the woman credit because she's been such an idiot for things. Jen actually answered that exactly right. She does know, to an extent, what her job is. And given, especially the fact that she's been slapped in the face by mainline media sources over her sidestepping the Constitution in the past, looking in, she answered that exactly correctly. Now, of course, the admin wants to go in and turn their forces against their political enemies, in this case, the people who are contributing to the trucker protest. Of course they do. They've been very open about it. They have been insanely open about the fact that they want to shut down any thought that doesn't agree with theirs. But now, and again, given the fact that she has very recently been called out rightfully for what she's had to say that's extra constitutional, she came out and said, Oh, yeah, no, I don't have any update about that. So, yeah, no, just, we won't worry about that for right now. No. Just, I have no update for you. Hey, look, we'll talk about something else here, but I have no update for you on this one here. But also, a member of mainline media from Reuters, Shalala, is telling you that the way that you speak or the way that you spend money, especially if it's supporting a free speech cause, this is a free speech cause, should be illegal. Why are we allowing this to happen? Shalala should be forced to resign right now. But that's what we have off that. Let's grab another protest here, but not one for the Freedom Convoy. This one came to us from Instagram by America's 1776 and True American Shit together with original audio. Apparently GE, General Electric contract workers have walked off the job in protest against vaccine mandates. Let's listen. Now, I don't have an article to go along with this particular one. I will actually, let me grab something. Let me make a note of myself. And I mean, the mainstream media isn't really talking about this either, by the way. I can see that off of that. But I'm going to explore this just a little bit and see if I can find a little bit more of that. But if the electric company guys are starting to walk off the job, and I'm not sure if this is like GE, like a utility, or GE with where they're making stuff like light bulbs and shit, but even still, it's either going to be release the mandates. There are more workers than there are executives and CEOs, so release the mandates or find someone else to make your shit. And that's the way that needs to be. You need to remind the government and these people, these CEOs, that there are more of us than there are of you. But this isn't a proper support the working class protest because these people are protesting the wrong things and they're right wing. We only support the working class when they're union and Democrat. Let's keep going. From Reuters. Another nonviolent but still funny form of protest. Climate activists, again in Europe. We've seen this already. And again, we'll give them credit for nonviolently protesting to come back out here. But with the stupidity, of course, that this is going to backfire on them and the European police don't care. And the stupidity also behind what it is that they're trying to protest because, yeah, man-made climate change is, I mean, they've been promising since 1982 that we'd all be dead in 10 years. And 1992 was 30 years ago. From Reuters, 15 climate activists glue themselves to German motorways. No author given. 15 climate activists glued themselves to the asphalt of motorways in Germany, causing rush hour traffic jams on Monday in the latest protest demanding law against food waste and cuts in greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture. A total of 252 protesters have taken part in a series of road blockades over the past 2 weeks. 69 of them fusing themselves to the asphalt to make it harder to remove them, according to German climate activist group Last Generation. Yeah, how'd that work out for you? In a Reuters video, showed frustrated motorists held up on Capitol, Berlin's main A100 motorway on Monday, getting out of their cars and dragging some of the activists out of the way by their hoods and backpacks. A total of 42 activists took part in the motorway blockades in Berlin and in the southwest city of Freiburg on Monday, according to the Last Generation. Freiburg police launched investigations against 11 people, and Berlin police were verifying activists' identities and checking if they could be placed into custody. So, here's the deal. Now, this is possibly somewhat similar to the Canadian protests. There is possibly some similarity there because they're also trying to block out roadways to get their message across. The big difference, of course, and these people would never get into a commercial vehicle anyway, because, A, it's really hard. It's hard work to go back and work one of those. Plus, the emissions might cause another species to go extinct, or we might lose our glaciers. If one more truck turns on, we might lose our glaciers. If one more car that isn't a Tesla turns on, because Tesla is zero emissions. No, ignore what's going on when we get the stuff for the batteries. No, ignore the stuff that's going on when we go for the chips. It's zero emissions, goddammit. Tesla, only Tesla because it's zero emissions. Only electric cars. No, I said ignore that, goddammit. But the difference being between these guys and the truckers is, yes, they have glued their hands to the pavement. Yes, I understand that, but most of them are 130 pounds soaking wet. So the polizei will come in and wrap their hands around their shoulders, and they don't care that their hands are glued or that they're screaming, ow, it hurts. They're just going to hoist these people up and go. At least with the trucker protest, they have taken a large, difficult-to-move vehicle, not immovable, but difficult-to-move vehicle, and parked it across the street, or driving it around honking their horns. And then, as was pointed out in the chat last night, and then KTZed also brought it back up, the people that do need to be called on to go and carry these trucks out of here are themselves truckers. And if they do come in there, and that's a poor business move, but they do come in there and hook onto the trucks and drag them out of there, they've officially pissed off their clientele. So, I mean, I don't, like I say, with these European guys, I don't agree with the cause that you're doing. I think that you've been fed a massive propaganda. You tried. You didn't get anywhere, but you tried. From Fox News. Outrage mounts after schools across nation celebrate BLM's Week of Action. Oh yes. And of course, we have to come back with a comparison. And yes, I understand. I've called out whataboutism before. But once again, we're talking BLM and protests, given the fact that they're trying to demonize right now major protests of people who are nonviolent. And then now we've got to talk about BLM's Week of Action. From Emma Colton. Schools across the nation celebrated Black Lives Matter Week of Action, which has sparked fierce condemnation from concerned parents. I am concerned that Black Lives Matter political movement has Trojan horsed their way into black history education at Webster Elementary, one California father wrote to members of the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School. Yeah. In Malibu and Santa Monica on top of this. Now, if you're sitting in either inner city Chicago or the west suburbs or Kenosha, or hell, I would even expect to see something like that going down in Janesville, not that far from here. Eau Claire, we're talking Wisconsin cities, because I don't know a lot of other cities in a lot of other states. But yeah, I could expect some of this in, poor schools where you're not going to see a lot of public. But in Santa Monica, Malibu, how many people are actually going to their public school out of there? If you're in Malibu, you typically have got the money to go ship somebody off to a private school at some point. Although the teachers union has probably convinced a lot of the residents who willingly live in Malibu that the private school is the root of all evil as well. So I might have to walk that one back. In an email obtained by Fox News, BLM is a divisive and radical fringe group that includes anti-American, anti-Israel, our Jewish homeland and that of proud Jewish people, anti-Semitic and racist propaganda. The father said parents in the school district were sent a message that the local school board approved of celebrating BLM Week of Action for the second consecutive year and urged teachers and schools to implement the group's controversial 13 guiding principles. The guiding principles include calling for the disruption of Western nuclear family dynamics and concepts such as black villages and globalism and queer affirming. I'm telling you, one of these things does not fit with the others. Because the real Black Panther types and the black movement hate the homosexuality argument because they believe that it was the white man's attempt to convince black men that they don't need to impregnate people and they can just go back out and enjoy the company of gays so that they can slowly stop breeding and weed themselves out of society. It's all a matter of the white devil, according to them. And homosexuality should never be practiced in the black community, according to them. This is not me saying this. This is according to them. And Jussie Smollett and Empire were there, a tool of the white man to make homosexuality okay for black men, so they'll stop breeding. We are committed to disrupting Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, and especially our children. Holy shit, that's Marxist. To the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable, according to the website BLM at School. A California dad fired back at the school district's plan to celebrate the week, arguing Black Lives Matter is unequivocally a racist political movement that goes against many of our family values, and by the way, let's remind them, haven't disclosed their financial disclosures to the state of California. But I mean, I put this up to the top to juxtapose this against the protest that's actually peaceful versus the organization who's A, trying to infiltrate the schools, but B, spent the entire summer of 2020 launching protests that were not peaceful. Let's keep going. Senate GOP backlash. Max RNC after Cheney Kinzinger censure. Good. Once again, don't know about Kinzinger because I don't know if he has been held to account by his own voters or not. But Cheney has already been held to account by the people that she actually represents. This was a symbolic measure that was probably a measure too far. So good. I'm glad some adults in the House are pushing back. Because, once again, otherwise you're just feeding ammo to the people that say, oh, Republicanism is just the Trump cult. From Burgess Everett, Marianne Levine, and Olivia Beavers. Senate Republicans are not happy with Republican National Committee. Good. In interviews on Monday evening, GOP senators lashed out at their own national party's overwhelming vote to censure Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger for working on the White House's investigation into the January 6th selfie fest. They warned that alienating a portion of the party for being openly anti-Trump is not a political winner heading into midterms, a sharp message from sitting members that goes far beyond criticism that already aired by a handful of GOP pundits. Several Republican senators took a more direct action, both Lindsey Graham, and Mittens Romney were in communication with RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel about the censure, with Graham calling her and Romney texting his niece. Oh, that's right, that she is his niece, isn't she? Forgot about that. A very unfortunate decision by the RNC, and a very unfortunate statement to put out as well. Nothing could be further from the truth than to consider the attack on the seat of democracy, and Lindsey Graham knows about piercing the seat, as a legitimate political discourse, Romney said in an interview. Yeah, Romney's got the completely wrong message about this, by the way, which is not surprising because he's Mitt-fucking-Romney. Graham said, the party is going in the wrong direction, sugar, when it's not talking about taking back control of Congress. Yeah, and Romney is going the completely wrong direction of this, because Romney is getting ready to go throw the people that didn't support the people that he liked under the fucking bus. Graham is just going wherever the wind fucking blows, because he's Lindsey fucking Graham. But as far as, like, with Romney, you shouldn't be going against these people because, calling this a legitimate political discourse, which it was, by the way, calling this a legitimate political discourse is not a winning strategy going into the midterms. No, it was a legitimate political discourse. You just haven't read the Constitution in forever, you warhawk, warmongering, Bushite piece of shit. The real problem with this, like I said, is the fact that this is extended above and beyond punishment. That goes beyond the fact that both of these members have been punished either by their states and their state Democrats, as in the case of Kinzinger, or by their voters directly, and then the state that they represent, as in Liz Cheney and either the voters who are going to vote her out of office coming up, or the Wyoming GOP. This was a step way too far. And again, if they'd have done this, I would still have some problem with it, because this should have been done at a state level anyway. I would still have somewhat of a problem with it, but if this had been done right after the impeachment vote, I'd have said, okay, you're mad, I get it. Still probably shouldn't have done it, but you're mad, I get it. But now that we're sitting here over a year later and doing this is just sour grapes to me. And again, Lindsey Graham is just going in the direction that he thinks is going to get him the most political power. He has no morals. He has no standards. From the Hill, Kinzinger says RNC deserves backlash for the January 6th resolution language. From Sarakshi Rai, Adam Kinzinger said in an interview Monday that it was wrong for the Republican National Committee to censure him and Liz Cheney for their work on the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th selfie fest on the Capitol. In an appearance on MSDNC's Morning Joe, of course he went to MSDNC. Almost immediately. You know why? Because he's probably trying to court the leftoid voters in one of the districts that now overlap what was formerly his. Of course he went to MSDNC. Why the fuck wouldn't he? The RNC censure was a bridge way too far. He told MSDNC that the January 6th committee is working together, pulling in the same direction, all to get one thing: an end to populists and an end to candidates who aren't from the political establishment. Oops, I mean answers. In a separate interview with CNN's new... Really? MSDNC straight to CNN. Wow. Although CNN might be going in another direction. We've got a story on that later on in the stack, in which I will probably learn who Jonah Goldberg actually is. Because other people have told me that it's a big deal that he's coming up there, but I have no idea who the dude is. So we'll probably learn that. Well, I'll learn that. You guys will all laugh at me for not knowing that already. In a separate interview with CNN's New Day on Monday, Kinzinger said the RNC is completely unmoored from the truth. He said it had pledged allegiance to one man over any kind of principle. And yes, I've criticized the RNC for coming into this and saying, yes, this is giving ammunition. Now, I don't know if that was the decision that the RNC made. It might actually be. I don't know if that was the actual reasoning behind the fact that they did this, because they have fealty to one man. But take a second and look at how this looks from the outside. Because from the outside, it really does look like you have pledged fealty to one human being, one man. But Kinzinger, and we're going to listen to him in just a second, but Kinzinger, you should probably try to figure out what you're going to do with your political career. Hey, maybe you might be able to sit on some sort of panel, or actually be an anchor at MSDNC or CNN. Maybe that's why you're courting them. I don't fucking know. But you should probably figure out what you're going to do next now that you don't have a district anymore. And if that's not enough, Kinzinger says Trump was the worst president the U.S. has ever had. ignoring the fact that FDR put literal U.S. citizens in internment camps. Let's listen to Mr. Kinzinger.
Bottom line on this, John, is, I just had a kid 3 weeks ago. When he's 5 or 10 and learning about history, I want to make sure that he gets a full accounting of what happened on January 6th. And I want to make sure that every Republican member of Congress, when their kids and grandkids are in school, they're going to look and be like, hey, mom or dad or grandma and grandpa, how did you vote on January 6th? That's going to be something I think in 5 or 10 years is going to be hard to explain if you're not on the side of truth.
Well, first of all, congratulations. Second of all, what will you tell Christian when he's old enough? What will you tell Christian about Donald Trump?
I'm going to tell him he was the worst president the United States of America ever had. He was a liar, he was a charlatan, and he was a man with a more fragile ego than anybody I've ever met, which the irony of it is he walks around like the tough guy, but he's the one that gets more offended and wounded and sad than anybody I know. I'm also going to tell him that it was the moment that I hope America hit the bottom of its slide towards authoritarianism, and the moment we woke up. I hope he's proud of what I've done. I'm confident he will.
Are you kidding right now? The Democratic president tried to make an executive order to force everybody in the country, no matter what they did for work, no matter what their objections were to it, to get a vaccine that's being provided to him by a major pharmaceutical company that his party was denouncing just 3 years ago. Are you fucking kidding? A slide into authoritarianism.
Will be, because, short of this thing really going off the rails, this thing being our country in this experiment, I think we're going to look back and say, wow, that was a moment we might have flown too close to the sun, and we can never do that again. That's my hope and prayer, because if not, we're in real trouble.
What a piece of shit.
Well, Stacey Abrams, a Democratic candidate.
And then, of course, you can't go back and, you can do the old video. But let's shut that up, because we don't want to listen to this fucking bitch anymore.
Bottom line on this, John.
Shut up, you. So, there's that. That's Kinzinger right there. All right, from the Post-Millennial. Author leading mob against Joe Rogan over N-word, revealed to have used N-word many times in his books. This is from Ian Miles Chong, who is apparently still gray. Don Winslow, the crime fiction author and Democratic political activist who is leading the latest charge against Joe Rogan for using the N-word slur in his podcast a decade ago, made use of the word himself many times throughout his career as a fiction writer. One might argue that Winslow has profited from hate. In a tweet over the weekend addressed to The Rock, Winslow asked the actor and professional wrestler, who previously expressed his support for his friend Rogan, to disavow the podcaster. "Dear The Rock," he wrote, "you're a hero to many people, and using your platform to defend Joe Rogan, a guy who used and laughed about using the N-word dozens of times, is a terrible use of power. Please come and sign my Moana plushie. Thank you, Don Winslow." Have you ever actually listened to this man's many racist statements about black people? As detailed by the academic anti-woke Twitter account Vocal Distance, Winslow has made a living from writing about characters who've expressed racist dialogue in The Force. Winslow used the term baby multiple times, as well as the term to refer to black characters in the character dialogue. Sorry, I can't do that one. And documented. I think some of this might be strategically placed up here, but yeah, we've got the Kindle. The Kindle pages. There it is. There's one. Oh, there's another one, and that's just in the and the panned out screenshots there. We could probably open this up on Twitter, because of course. And yes, find more of them. There's another one. In his book Savages, Winslow refers to immigrant Mexicans in a sentence that reads, "You want to be one of those good Mexicans, one of those hardworking, church-going, family-valuing, get dressed in my best clothes on Sunday, and walk with my cousins down the sun-baked boulevards to a park named after Chavez, humble, respectful taco Mexicans, the ones we all love and respect, and pay sub-minimum wage alongside other colorful sections." Yeah, it doesn't really, especially if he's actually the one that led the charge off of this, it doesn't really seem like, well, let's just say, hold on, getting a call. I gotta make a call out here, and luckily, the headphones on the microphone double as a phone. Oh, yes, hey, leg store? Yes, hey, leg store. Good, perfect. Perfect, hey, I need something for Don Winslow to stand on. Do you have any? No? Nothing? Not a leg to stand on here? Oh, darn, I guess. Sorry, Don Winslow, I guess you're fucking screwed. From CNN Business, Spotify CEO condemns Rogan's use of racial slurs, but says company won't be silencing him. From Oliver Darcy, because of course it's from Oliver Darcy. Who the fuck else could it be from other than Oliver Darcy? Daniel Ek, chief executive of Spotify, addressed Rogan's past use of racial slurs on Sunday night, telling staff in a memo that while he found the comments incredibly hurtful and inconsistent with company values, he did not believe silencing the podcaster was the answer. Ek's comments come as Spotify faces an unprecedented crisis over Rogan's rhetoric on race and COVID-19 that has enveloped the company in controversy and led to a growing number of recording artists and podcasters abandoning the platform. Yeah, leaving Spotify isn't possible for every artist, says Roseanne Cash, who unfortunately is another one that almost nobody has heard of or heard of in recent times. It's Johnny Cash's daughter. She had one really big song in the 90s on the country music charts. It was called the Tennessee Flat Top Box, and he would play. It's a good song. I like that song. Now, like if Dave Grohl came out and said something like that, which he won't, obviously, but if Dave Grohl came out and said something like that, a lot of people would probably stand up and take notice. Rogan, who vowed last week to do better when discussing matters related to the pandemic, apologized Saturday morning after a video compilation of him using the N-word was widely shared on social media. Rogan said he's not racist and has not used such language in recent years. He admitted in an Instagram video posted to his account that he acted inappropriate. Look, okay, if you're in a situation where you're saying, I'm not racist, you've already fucked up. Thank you, Rogan, for that underwhelming show of non-support. But I mean, good on Ek at least for not doing this, and yes, for not pulling the episodes down. That was Rogan's choice, not yours. I don't agree with it, but that was Joe's choice, not yours. And he did it. Ek is seemingly, as far as CEOs that deal with media going, kind of, I don't want to say he's based, because he isn't, but he's kind of based adjacent. Like in the vicinity of based. In the general region of based. From the Daily Wire. And we've got video of it too. Brian Stelter and Jim Acosta, because you needed intellectual conversation today. Because you're not getting it from me, apparently. CNN host push to cancel Rogan seems untenable that he could keep job. Celebs lose roles for less. From Daily Wire News. CNN's Jim Cocksucker and Baldy Stelter attacked podcast host Joe Rogan over the weekend as he faced continued backlash over old remarks that he made that had recently resurfaced. Rogan has since apologized for the remarks, which included the use of racial slurs, and had dozens of his own episodes pulled down from Spotify after talking with the company. But let's listen to Jim a Cocksucker and Brian Stelter.
Joe Rogan is now apologizing after videos resurfaced of him using the N-word multiple times on his podcast, Patriot Takes, which put the video together as an organization that aims to expose extremism on the far right. The video is an edited compilation of different podcast episodes, and we have to warn you, this is very disturbing to hear.
This is very disturbing to hear.
Like, you know, the thing.
Yes. Saying the word
You've already said is just like
saying
she's calling you a like this boy that he's a and starts calling them word. There should be a word like especially like the word that's our about he says guy and then starts saying to use the word out the word see word say and he couldn't say else.
Just unbelievable. Let's bring in CNN.
Just unbelievable.
Brian Stelter. Brian, what is Joe Rogan now saying?
He is now apologizing, and we're going to find out if that's enough for Spotify, the company that has an exclusive distribution deal with him. Jim, this is all coming to light because of the recent controversy about anti-vaccine rhetoric on Rogan's podcast. Some artists decided to quit the service. One of them, India Ari, pointed out this video, this compilation video, and pointed out that the language Rogan has used around race in the past is just as, or maybe even more problematic than his rhetoric about vaccines. We know Rogan's show is known for its fresh and frank and unvarnished conversations. That's why his fans like the show. But this compilation, this use of the N-word so many times in the past may be too much even for some of his defenders to bear. But here is, in Rogan's own words, part of his apology today.
I'm making this video to talk about the most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly. There's a video that's out that's a compilation of me saying the N-word. It's a video that's made of clips taken out of context of me of 12 years of conversations on my podcast, and it's all smushed together, and it looks horrible, even to me. Now, I know that to most people, there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now. I haven't said it in years, but for a long time, when I would bring that word up, like if it would come up in conversation, instead of saying the N-word, I would just say the word. I never used it to be racist because I'm not racist, but whenever you're in a situation where you have to say, I'm not racist, you f***ed up.
So, and I mean, that's where those two are going to go because, once again, because they're Brian Stelter and Jim a Cocksucker. But, I mean, there it is. And with Rogan's apology, nothing that anybody does, again, is ever going to be right. No, nothing Rogan says or does is ever going to be right. And now they're going to push him to go further and go further. And I didn't get it on the stack today, and I'm kicking myself in the ass for it, but that's part of the thing, too, with the fact that Rumble offered him $100 million. And that right there is a part of the reason that Spotify is begging and saying, no, we're not going to cancel him. He shouldn't be silenced. Because it's possible, coming up at this point, if they keep pushing this way, and I don't know if Rogan would go to Rumble because I don't know if he'll be able to take the personality hit of being on the Nazi side. And I talked with his screen name is Kurt Libertarian over on Twitter, and he never responded, which he usually responds to me, but he never responded off of this one, probably because he knows I'm right. That yes, you can send Joe Rogan over to Rumble, over to BitChute or something like that. BitChute links are already censored as spam on Twitter, which means his shareability goes down. You can't take a clip or share the episode out on Twitter, and probably Facebook too. When do you think they're going to go back and do that for Rumble with the vertical monopoly? Twitter looking out for Google. Do you think that Rumble is going to be the next one that's censored out on Twitter or Instagram? Oh, you can't post this video here because this is from a spam link. But the push is there. Rogan has taken away their audience base. All right, let's grab one from the Daily Mail. Let's talk about more CNN stuff. From the Daily Mail, is this the end of CNN's left-wing bias? Billionaire Trump donor, who's the largest shareholder of the network's new owner, Discovery, wants to restore its impartiality and insisted on Jeff Zucker's departure after his affair was exposed. I still think that Cuomo had something to do with this. From Jennifer Smith, chief reporter, and Chris Jewers and James Gordon for DailyMail.com. CNN's left-wing bias may become a thing of the past when it's spun off to Discovery later this year, with the largest shareholder of the network's new owners eager to restore its impartiality. John Malone, a billionaire Trump donor, is the CEO of Liberty Media, Discovery's largest shareholder. He retains a 25% voting share in Discovery, which will take control of Warner Media and its assets, including CNN, later this year. With Zucker gone, it seems more likely than ever. It's unclear which political direction Discovery CEO David Zaslav wants to take the network in. On Friday morning, he shocked CNBC hosts by calling the network the leader of the news to the left. Mediaite interpreted his remarks as a reference to the political left. However, he has since clarified that he was talking about the left side of the company portfolio, with sports being on the right. On CNBC, he refused to talk about the scandal, but said, "Jeff is a good friend of mine. I can't speak on the issue. We don't own the company yet. In terms of CNN Plus, we couldn't be more excited about the fact that they've been hiring great journalists." So, with that in mind, just to think about for a second, and some of the things that we've seen, we talked about it a little bit last night, but I mean, the news has become a reality TV program. It really has. You know, we sit there and see Jim a cocksucker come up there and try to do the gotcha questions to the president. And now Ducey, or the president's press secretary, and now Ducey doing the exact same thing. We see instances like this where they're trying to make the news about, and I try to avoid, with the exception of, I almost didn't do the Zucker thing because this was just the head of a network doing another reality TV thing, but I thought that that one, at least in and of itself, was important, and this one as well. Because if CNN becomes something that's actually usable and not so far to the left that, I mean, you can't get any impartiality to it, if it's not going to be the Orange Man Bad Network anymore, then it will change the tone of this program and many programs else out there. But we will see where this goes. We will see what happens with this and where we go, because, I mean, it would be nice to actually have an impartial news network. You know, not MSDNC, who says just left-wing talking point, left-wing talking point, left-wing talking point, or Fox News of, we support whoever the most powerful Republican is and he is our hero. To actually have something somewhere in the middle, but I don't know where they're going to go with it. I really don't. From The Hill. Jonah Goldberg allegedly joins CNN. I have no idea who Jonah Goldberg is. From Dominic Mastrangelo. Jonah Goldberg, long-term conservative political journalist and cable news pundit, is joining CNN. The network confirmed on Monday. Goldberg has been hired by CNN to serve as political commentator and will be based in Washington, D.C. Goldberg is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of conservative online political commentary website The Dispatch and has authored 3 New York Times best-selling books. Goldberg and fellow conservative scribe Stephen Hayes late last year announced that they were leaving Fox News, and they had both been contributors for years, saying they'd grown increasingly uncomfortable with the tone and content of much of Fox News' opinion content, and arguing the publication of primetime host Tucker Carlson's documentary series examining the Selfie Fest was a breaking point. Indeed, the news size of Fox routinely does what it's supposed to do. It reports the truth. The pair wrote in a blog post about their decision, but the voices of the responsible are being drowned out by the irresponsible. Yeah. Hannity and Tucker and Ingram. Fox News said at the time of Goldberg and Hayes' departure that the network did not plan to renew their contracts as contributors. Okay, so he was a Fox guy. I don't know. I still don't know who he is. But apparently it's a big deal that he's going over there. And I know that it got Hayes, but I think that Hayes was just looking for something much more left to go to, because he doesn't really fit in with the Fox News opinion crowd. From CNN, ironically enough, White House science advisor resigns and acknowledges disrespectful and demeaning behavior after investigation from Jeremy Diamond and Kate Sullivan. Eric Lander, a top science advisor to President Joe Biden, resigned Monday after a White House investigation that found he had violated workplace policies became public. We have assembled the most amazing set of people at OSTP, and we have together set out the most ambitious goals that this agency has ever attempted. I have sought to push myself and my colleagues to reach our shared goals, including at times challenging and criticizing, Lander wrote in his resignation letter to Biden. But it is clear the things I said and the way that I said them crossed the line at times into being disrespectful and demeaning to both men and women. This was never my intention. Lander wrote that his resignation is effective no later than February 18th in order to permit an orderly transfer. The resignation of the President's science advisor and director of the White House Office of Science and Tech comes just a day after damning reports surfaced that he had been the subject of an internal investigation late last year after a complaint was filed under the Executive Office of the President's Safe and Respectful Workplace Policy. The investigation, first reported by Politico, found credible evidence of violations of the policy, and corrective action was taken consistent with those findings. A spokesperson for OSTP told CNN it did not find credible evidence of gender-based discrimination, the spokesperson noted. And I just want to point out the tone that's different here between CNN and their coverage of this versus their tone under CNN and their coverage of what had happened in the previous administration. Because, we get here to, this would be a much darker article where we'd hear the guy who announces the movies, in a world where somebody undesirable has become president. The depths of corruption in one office and the depths of degeneracy as one member of the cabinet is degrading and womanizing, sexualizing his female colleagues. How this person came into the world of disgrace. And instead we get a paragraph like this that is just sanitized beyond all meaning. And I would rather have the sanitized beyond all meaning paragraph, because it's curt, it's factual, it's to the point. We know what's here, we know what's going on. Whether or not there will be criminal charges that go along with this, we don't know that yet. There should be. But whether or not there will be, we don't know that yet. But I mean, this is the way that it should be, not the sensationalism that we saw in the past administration. From Politico, Biden's top science advisor bullied into mean subordinates according to White House investigation. From Alex Thompson, President Brandon's top science advisor Eric Lander bullied into mean his subordinates and violated the White House's workplace policy. An internal White House investigation recently concluded, according to interviews and an audio recording obtained by Politico. The 2-month investigation found credible evidence that Lander, a cabinet member and director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, who the White House touts as a key player in pandemic response, was bullying towards his then general counsel, Rachel Wallace, according to a recorded January briefing on the investigation's findings. Christian Peel, the White House's Deputy Director of Management and Administration for Personnel, said that the investigation also concluded that there was credible evidence of disrespectful interactions by staff by Dr. Lander and OSTP leadership, according to roughly 20-minute briefings, which included a representative of the White House counsel's office. There was also credible evidence that Lander had spoken harshly and disrespectfully to colleagues in front of other colleagues, Peel said. According to the recording, the investigation found credible evidence of instances of multiple women having complained to other staff about negative interactions with Dr. Lander, where he spoke to them in demeaning, abrasive way in front of other staff, Peel said in the recording. So this gives us an idea of what this is. This is full-on bullying towards one specifically named person, a general counsel for his particular office, And then we also see that this is going on everywhere. But, you know, there again, we get the sanitized version of this, which, again, I prefer the sanitized version of this. So that's what we see off that. It is 9. I want to grab these 2 quick before we go. Before we do, I want to do these 3, actually. We'll hold out for a little bit longer here, but I want to get these 3 before we head out of here for the day, and then we will do Twitter trending and go. From ABC7 Eyewitness News, former Garcetti Communications Director says mayor should be charged with perjury, files complaint. This is from City News Service by Margaret Shuttleworth. The nonprofit law firm Whistleblower Aid has filed a complaint on behalf of LA Mayor Eric Garcetti's former communications director, accusing the mayor of perjury for claiming he was unaware of alleged sexual harassment and assault by his former senior advisor. The complaint was sent Wednesday to the U.S. Department of Justice, California Attorney General Rob Bonta, LA County District Attorney George Gascon, and the California State Auditor's Office, the California State Personnel Board, and the LA Ethics Commission. The mayor, who's been nominated to be the ambassador to India by President Brandon, was questioned during his nomination hearing in the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee about the sexual harassment allegations against his former advisor Rick Jacobs. Jacobs was accused in a 2020 lawsuit filed by LAPD officer Matthew Garza, who claims Garcetti witnessed the misconduct but turned a blind eye to it. Garcetti has denied allegations in the past and did so again during this hearing, telling the Senate panel he has zero tolerance policy for sexual harassment. The mayor previously claimed he didn't know about Garza's accusations at the time or until the lawsuit became public in 2020. The complaint filed last week alleges that Garcetti committed felony perjury on February 8, 2021, during his deposition as part of his lawsuit, and on December 14, 2021, when he told the Senate committee under oath that he never witnessed, nor was it brought to my attention, that the behavior was that's being alleged. So, it seems to me that yes, like we're saying, if all of the allegations that are in this article line up correctly, then yes, he committed perjury because he he ignored it completely when it was brought to his attention off of this. But we'll see what happens and where this goes. I doubt this is going to happen, and I'm sure that Garcetti is going to be our ambassador to India because, oh wait, we didn't know about any of this. Oh, we can't go back and investigate this. From The Blaze, First Lady Jill Biden confirms Democrats have abandoned her promise for free community college. From Carlos Garcia. First Lady, Doctor. Did I say it loud enough? Doctor Jill Biden confirmed Monday that Democrats have abandoned her promise of free community college in their negotiations to pass President Biden's social spending bill. Dr. Biden said she was disappointed in the development during a speech at the Community College National Legislative Summit in Washington, D.C. Congress hasn't passed the Build Back bullshit legislation yet, and free community college is no longer part of that package, she told the audience. We knew that this wasn't going to be easy. Joe always said that. Still, like you, I was disappointed because I wanted power. Like you, these aren't just bills or budgets to me. To you, right? She continued. We know what they mean for real people, for our students, the First Lady concluded. And that was a real lesson in human nature. That some people just didn't get that. Well, you can't afford it. That's the end of it. You've just passed $30 trillion in debt. You cannot afford this. And Democrats in Congress are finally growing some sort of fucking spine and saying, no, stop spending goddamn money. I don't know how long it's going to last. I have no faith in them that it's going to last for very long. But they are finally growing some sort of a spine and saying, no. That's the end of this shit. No more. Alright, and the last one that I want to grab More from the red-haired bobblehead. Because we can't forget that we're at war, active, hot war with Russia. Back in the Ukraine. And they could invade at any moment. We're ready either way. Red-haired bobblehead says Biden administration is prepared to handle whatever Putin does next. I hope you all got your stock in Raytheon. White House Press Secretary Red-haired bobblehead vowed that President Brandon is ready to deal with Russian President Vladimir Putin's next move regarding the Ukraine. As Russia threatens to invade Eastern European nation, President Brandon has sent thousands of American soldiers into the region. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has concluded that there's still the possibility that American forces could find themselves face-to-face with Russian troops, though he stressed that there's still time to work towards a diplomatic solution. Bobblehead made similar promises during the press briefing on Monday. Is there a video over saying this? There is.
On Ukraine, Zelensky's office said yesterday that a diplomatic solution seems much more likely than war. And then we saw Jake Sullivan say yesterday that an invasion could come at any day. Can you help us square the difference here and why there still seems to be such a dark assessment, a stark difference in assessing the threat?
Well, what our national security advisor also conveyed during some interviews with a range of your networks yesterday was that we're pursuing a two-track approach, which includes deterrence and diplomacy, but that we are ready either way for whatever decision President Putin might make. And we don't have a new assessment of his decision and where he stands on it. We also need to be prepared. Being prepared is exactly what we can do from the U.S. government in coordination and in partnership with our NATO allies, our partners in Eastern Europe, and of course the Ukrainians. And that is what we're focused on. So we don't actually see it as a conflict.
Is Kiev wrong then on this?
In terms of the preparations, or
diplomatic solution being more likely than war? It seems hard to square that with Sullivan saying that an invasion could come at any day.
Well, I think we certainly would prefer a diplomatic solution. I think that's everybody's preference and everybody's hope. But again, this is remains up to President Putin to make a decision about which path he's going to take. We don't have an assessment of that. So what our focus is on is preparing for a range of contingencies, including in coordination with the Ukrainians, making sure they have the supplies they need, the humanitarian assistance they need, the security assistance they need, and we're doing that. We're doing that consistently, even while we are closely watching the buildup of troops on the border.
They need this so bad. They need a war so bad. They need something to pull up their failing presidential numbers. They need this war so bad. And you can hear it in her voice too. No, don't listen to Kiev, who's actually there, who's actually having talks, and whose territory is actually being affected by this. No, listen to us. Listen to ours. Russia is definitely going to attack in the near future. And they're going to make a false flag and make it seem like Ukraine attacked so they can come in and justify their attack. And it's going to happen. Stop asking questions. They need this so bad. And you know it. And I know it. All right. Let's finish out here. Let's do Twitter trending and let's go. So, on Tuesdays, we take the top 5 Twitter trends, explore them, explain them, and see what's going on with them. And sometimes we learn something together. Number 1, Oscar nominations. The 94th Oscars are coming up here, and apparently the nominations for movies are movies, only one of which I've ever heard of. Dune. Actually, no, I've heard of Belfast too, because it's advertised on Spotify every once in a while. No idea what it is. Don't go out and watch a lot of movies. You all know that. Watching more movies now, but don't go out and watch a lot of movies. I don't. So, I have no idea what movies are even being... Apparently Dune received 10 Oscar nominations. I don't know. I heard it wasn't bad, but I heard it wasn't anything like the books either. There you go. Here's His and Hers Oscar nominations for Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons. I didn't even know there was a movie called His and Hers. Oh, Kirsten Dunst in His and Hers and Jesse Plemons in Power of the Dog. No, they're both... Okay, Let's actually sit back and read this properly. His and hers Oscar nominations for Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons in Power of the Dog. So the his and hers nominations were his and hers. I thought there was a movie called His and Hers. For the Power of the Dog, which I've also never heard of. Kirsten Dunst shares a birthday with me. 2 years to the day. Older than me. Drive My Car. Never heard of that. Dear Evan Hansen. No idea. No idea any of these. Because Hollywood has just been pumping out crap for so long that we have no idea. We're actually going to skip that because Best Picture is going to go into this one. So we'll count these as one. We'll go on to the next one here. Wordle 234X. So I think I figured out what a Wordle is. I've never played it, but I think I figured out what it is. I know that Arvolt seems to like them. But I think that a lot of this has been started to back off a little bit. 2 fails in a row, but at least the townscapes look really good. No idea, unfortunately. My sister plays Wordle too, by the way. I found that on one of the rare instances when I opened up my Facebook. My sister plays Wordle. When you solve Wordle 234X at midnight and have to wait nearly 24 hours for the new word. I don't know. Maybe I'll try it. Maybe I'll try to figure it out. Alright, third one. Nintendo Direct. A Nintendo Direct is coming tomorrow, February 9th, featuring 40 minutes of upcoming Switch games. So, basically we're going to get a new Smash, probably maybe a new Mario Brothers. And we'll go from there. Splatoon Summoning Circle, let's go. Yeah, they want a new Splatoon. Yeah, basically they're just going to come out and tell you that you're getting a new Smash again. We will skip Tuesday Vibe. SUH Honey Day. I'm sorry, SUHNNY Day. This must be K-pop something. Happy birthday to our wonderful and talented Johnny Sue. We love you so much. Hope you have a great day. I have no idea. But apparently that's a thing. More K-pop. We'll roll that into one because I don't understand any of that either. So what are we on? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and the last one we'll do today is Safer Internet Day because apparently that's a thing. On Safer Internet Day, there are 2 lessons from this video. Watch the end and understand before commenting. 2, critically think everything you see online. Well, I guess let's watch the end and see what's going on. Because, I mean, what I'm seeing right now... Oh, it's a video effects thing, that's why. They CGI'd the damn in. Wow. Happy Safer Internet Day. Today we are millions joining forces together for a better internet. Are you one of us? Probably not. Find out how you can join the celebrations at saferinternetday.org. A lot of people talking about safer internet. Look, here's the thing. If you're an adult, be cautious about who and what it is that you do on the internet. Do be cautious about the people that you meet. But I've met my best friend on the internet. You guys know him. His name is Steven, and he fucking rocks. I've met some other great friends, KTZed. John. I met my last fiance through eHarmony. In fact, I met my last 2 girlfriends through eHarmony now that I think about it. So you can meet people online and do stuff like that. You just have to have a fucking brain about it. Be thoughtful about it. Know what it is that you're getting into and understand where it is that you're going. So But do be sure. And then also too, like with kids. Like my sister didn't want the kids playing Roblox, which I think that actually might be not a bad idea. But my sister didn't want to. They got Roblox gift cards for Christmas, but she found out that there was a chat feature on there, and she didn't want them to be participating in that kind of thing. So I don't know if she continued it or if they shut it down. But I mean, there's your idea of safer internet too. Be the parent. Say, this is what I feel comfortable with, this is what I don't feel comfortable with, and I have the final say in it. Check your judgment, make sure your judgment is sound, and as the parent, make sure that you are doing what's best for the kids. Those two things right there will take your internet experience farther and safer than anything else in the world. And that is a hard part too, because, you know, with a lot of working parents, it's hard for them to come back out and say, okay, well, we're going to figure this out and monitor this. But be the parent. Know what's going on. You're the custodian of the safety of your children. So that's what we have coming off of that. Safer Internet Day is a good thing, but I think it's going to be overblown to much, much further than it is. It's probably going to be inviting a lot of government regulations that I don't agree with. Where a lot of this, like I say, could be taken up by having a good head on your shoulders, understanding what it is you could possibly getting into, and in the case of your children, being the parent. But that's what I say off of that. And with that, we're done. A little bit of Imperial March to end out the day here before we head out of here. And I think we should go from there. Let's get some outro music and let's go. Alright, so we've got 4 left over for tomorrow, which by the time we get down to Friday will probably be 20 articles left over for Monday, and then we'll have like a 4-hour contemporary on Monday again. But we are going to head out of here for the day. I'll be back here tomorrow morning with more contemporary, so come back and join for that. More headlines, bring a couple friends here, let them know that we get some good headlines going on here, and that we do talk about what's going on with everything around, and of course, join the Discord if you want to affect the show. So come back in there. If you have something that I didn't cover that you want covered, get it in the Discord, because that is the primary source for all my material, is what you guys put in the Discord and what I put in the Discord. So get in the Discord, tag me on Twitter if you've got a news article, come back out here and join us for what we find for the news in the next 24 hours over here on Contemporary, and we will see you then. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.